Pennsylvania. Now, this is coming from the National Press Secretary for the President, whose name is Hogan Gidley. Okay, some of you may know him. He's on, the front lines in all of this, okay? And here's the evidence that we're seeing now, according to Hogan Gidley, National Press Secretary for President Trump. According to Gidley, we have now 2.6 million votes in Pennsylvania via mail-in ballots that did not get signature verification. Okay, this is all part of the chain of custody verification. So what this means is that the signature that's on the ballot was counted without being verified by the signature on the voter roll, which is required by law. Okay, it's all part of the chain of custody in order to verify and legitimate a vote. 2.6 million mail-in ballots got included in the Pennsylvania vote total, even though they did not have signature verification. And so, if the courts are following the law here, those 2.6 million votes are basically going to be thrown out. And that one act alone will give Trump Pennsylvania, okay? And most likely the election as a result. In Allegheny and in Philadelphia counties, 682,000 votes were cast without being reviewed or seen by Republican officials, electoral officials, which means that they were cast against the law. Again, this according to the National Press Secretary, Hogan Gidley. They now have evidence that before Election Day, okay, so these are the weeks leading up to Election Day, operatives on the grounds in Democrat precincts discovered that there were no privacy envelopes in some of the votes that they were receiving in Pennsylvania. Now, privacy envelopes are secured ballots where you have to put your vote, okay, your ballot, in another envelope before you put it into the main envelope that you send it back. So basically, you have to put your ballot in two envelopes. What operatives did at Democrat precincts, okay, is they detected, I don't know if they opened up the ballots, I don't know if they looked at it through a light, but they detected that it did not get the double protection, what's known as privacy envelope, in their mail-in ballots. So what they did is these electors contacted voters and told them they needed to vote again. And the problem here is that this was only done in Democrat precincts, all right, or certain Democrat precincts, which is a violation of equal protection laws, since Republican voters and other voters throughout Pennsylvania did not have the luxury of being able to correct any mistakes they had in sending in their ballots. So this is a two-tier system where some voters get special treatment at the expense of others. A classic case of a violation of equal protection laws. And if you didn't think it could get worse for the Democrats in Pennsylvania, Dick Morris is saying that we now have evidence that 630,000 people is around the total of those who voted late. Now, we've been talking about this in my videos, about last 5-6 days? My first video, if you want to get in depth with this, if I recall, it's entitled, Why Trump is Going to Win Pennsylvania and as a result the election. And that was the argument that was being made by some pretty astute observers here of what's going on. Dick Morris is estimating that about 630,000 people voted late, and that late vote is going to be adjudicated in the Supreme Court, and the conservatives have already telegraphed that they are going to knock this down. It's very interesting. The state legislature in Pennsylvania set a deadline for when votes had to be in, when they had to be turned in. And it had to be turned in by 8 p.m. on Election Day in order for your vote to be counted. So this was for your mail-in ballots, but it's also for your in-person ballots. As Mark Levin likes to say, if we can extend the deadline for mail-in ballots, why can't you extend the deadline for in-person voting, right, on election election day. Just let people keep filing in over the next few days. Why are mail-in ballots given a special treatment? So what we have to understand is, as far as the legislatures were concerned, which are dominated by Republicans in Pennsylvania, the legislatures said no, by 8 p.m. on election day, all votes have to be in. If you didn't make it by then, sorry, you were late. That's on you. It's not on anyone else. You had a responsibility to get there by 8 p.m. Now, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court didn't like that a few weeks back. And so they came in and said, no, 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 you can still get your ballot in upwards of 3 days after Election Day, which in effect legally moved Election Day. It moved, in moving the deadline, it moved Election Day for people who were doing mail-in ballots. But the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, authorizes state legislatures alone to set the day and time for elections. And so the five-vote conservative bloc on the U.S. Supreme Court looks very likely to strike that order down, that Pennsylvania Supreme Court order down, and in effect invalidate those votes. Now we'll have to see what they do with that. But what Morris is saying, not everyone knew count. I had no idea the counts until Morris was brought this up, and I don't know how he actually knows this. So you're gonna have to take it with a grain of salt. You're gonna have to verify and corroborate. But he's saying it's upwards of about 630,000 ballots that were received after 8 p.m. on November 3rd, Election Day, which, according to Sam Alito's letter to electors in Pennsylvania, any votes that came in after that time need to be separated from all of the vote total. They're not allowed to be included in the count of the vote total. And people are wondering, that may in fact be a telegraph that they are going to null and void those votes. And it can be upwards, according to Morris, of 630,000. And again, if you didn't think it could get worse for Democrats, I told you guys, I mean, things are heating up. The Pennsylvania House Republicans have announced a legislative-led audit of the 2020 election. They're insisting that the election results not be certified. That's key, because you can't have electors if they're not certified. You need to have the audit, and once the audit is complete, then the electors can be seated. But the point is that Pennsylvania Republican lawmakers who own both the State House and the Senate in Pennsylvania, they are rising up, taking control of this election process precisely as the United States Constitution requires them to, and they are going to audit the vote, very similar to what we're seeing in Georgia, which we'll get into in a moment. So what we've got going on in Pennsylvania is stunning. We are looking at the possibility, again, this is just as the information is coming in, so I'm just trying to make sure you understand that as we're going into this can change, but we are looking at the possibility of upwards of 3 million votes right now, maybe even more, that are highly precarious right now in Pennsylvania that may end up being scrapped as a result of their illegal nature once the Supreme Court steps in. Now that will flip Pennsylvania to Trump like that, and my heavens, that is going to be a massive game changer in this election. All right, so that's Pennsylvania. Stunning developments just in the last 24 hours. Let's go to Georgia. Now, you may have heard of this, but Georgia's Secretary of State, as of today, just a few hours back, announced an official audit of presidential election results that he said would be done with a full hand tally of ballots because the margin was so tight. Now, this is absolutely amazing because what this means is that Georgia officials are going to be going through the votes with a fine-tooth comb and weeding out all of the illegitimate and fraudulent votes. So, for example, again, by hand. Example, Dick Morris, again, is reporting that in Georgia, they found 27 7,000 people over the age of 90 who voted. I want that to hit you. I mean, if it's real, God bless these people, right? But a lot of people are pretty skeptical. 27,000 people over the age of 90. That includes 2,000 over the age of 100 and 500 over the age of 105. I think we can put these all in a single group. The vast majority of these are fraudulent. And that's it. Again, if Biden's only winning by a few thousand votes, 20,000 thrown out like there, that's it. They also found 2,500 people who are not registered to vote who voted in Georgia. And this is important too, because we've got the 2 seats in the Senate that are up for runoffs in January, right? So Republicans now have 50 seats as a result of the Alaska seat today that they won. They have 2 seats in the Senate runoff. So Georgia requires that you win a majority. You have to have 50% plus. I think Louisiana does the same thing. And so they had the election, they had several people in the race and nobody got the magic 50%. Well, many are arguing this hand count may indeed give at least one of those senators a clear majority so he doesn't have to do the runoff, which would be wonderful because there will be 51 seats and we're happy good old Mitch is going to be in charge and no matter what happens, we're in good shape there at least with the Senate. So this hand count should give President Trump Georgia, may even give us a senator, a sitting senator before the runoff. And I don't think we should be too worried about the runoff. These are pretty solid Republican candidates. I believe they're both incumbents. And the 2 Democrat challengers are pretty liberal. And obviously now everybody's looking at these votes with microscopic lenses, and that's going to be very, very hard to cheat. Now, let's move on to Wisconsin. Again, this is from Dick Morris. There are 6 counties where the turnout is vastly higher than the other 54 counties. I believe Wisconsin has 60. So there's 6 counties where the turnout is disproportionately higher. We're talking by double digits than the turnout in the other 54 counties. It exceeds by double digits the mass turnout in 2008 when Barack Obama first was elected president, and the turnout in 2016. Statewide in Wisconsin, the turnout was actually a bit lower than in 2016, which means we might be looking at the possibility of ballot stuffing taking place in these 6 counties. I believe they're all around Madison, which means then just that alone would flip Wisconsin. Now, at the very least, what all of this means, if all these flips do happen, or at the very least, again, if the Supreme Court comes in and simply renders the votes null because they've been so contaminated, regardless, what this means, again, at the most basic level, is that no one, neither Trump nor Biden, gets 270 electoral votes, which means, as we've been talking about in our videos, that this election goes to the House of Representatives. And as I understand, that's exactly what Trump's lawyers want. Obviously, they want the flips to Trump so he gets the Electoral College, but then Biden can dispute it. Biden can take it to the courts. Now, he's not going to have a lot of time to do that, right? I think that's part of the other thing that the Trump team is brilliantly doing is they're eating up a lot of the clock in this. So once they do effectively, by God's grace, flip or render null and void these results, there's not going to be a lot of time for Biden to do anything about it, to counter it in the courts. So it has to then go to the House of Representatives, which means that, again, I don't know how many of you have been following the videos, but it means that every state gets a delegation. It's not the House of Representatives, it's not the representatives themselves that vote for the president, it's the state delegation that votes. It's almost like electors coming and voting. Every state gets one vote, that's it. So little Delaware gets the same one vote as California gets. Texas gets the same vote as Colorado. Doesn't matter, everybody gets one vote. There are delegates that are sent to represent each state in the House of Representatives, and I understand the delegates are chosen by the legislatures of the respective states. California gets one vote, Rhode Island gets one vote, doesn't matter. This is all according to the 12th Amendment. And were that to take place, gang, Republicans lead 31 states. They own the legislatures of 31 states. Democrats are only 19. And there's not a single pundit that I have read that said, oh yeah, Joe Biden is going to pull that one off. And so Donald Trump will be easily reelected president if this goes to the House of Representatives, which it may very well do. Our Constitution provides for just these kinds of crises and resolving them. So this is why the more astute Democrats out there are actually getting rather nervous. We did a video today that entitled "The Democrats Are Beginning to Panic." And you're seeing article after article being written. They're finding that Republicans, this is the beauty of Trump, this is the wonder of Trump, Republicans are not folding under the pressure of the incessant information warfare of the mainstream media. They're not falling for it. They actually seem to be laughing at the media right now, which is very interesting because I think they recognize they own all the levers of power. They own the Senate. They own the House of Representatives where they descend these delegates. They own the Supreme Court with the 5-vote conservative bloc. They own all the levers of power. And so if they use these levers of power, and Trump does not concede, there is no way they cannot not win, right? I'm sorry, my double negative there. Thinking in Latin. In Latin, you're allowed to use double negatives, right? Non posse, non pecare. There is no way that they cannot not win. They are poised to defeat Biden by using the system that was given to us by the Constitution. It's absolutely fascinating. And again, we'll see. They may cater. The courts may not come through. The 5-vote majority may blow it. Who knows? Maybe Gorsuch could get Robert-sized or something. Who knows? Something like, and then all bets are off. Then Republicans suddenly, fall apart. But right now, they're not doing it. And leftist liberals are starting to get very, very nervous that they may actually successfully pull this off. And wow, what do you think about that? I mean, and again, I don't know what's going on with the firing of the defense secretary, right? Esper, who's a real snake. I never liked him, but Trump got rid of him, put in a loyalist instead. So that's interesting there, right? Because Esper was once says we'll never use the military, in any kind of domestic situation. Again, I don't know. I literally don't know, but that is really interesting how that might possibly be playing out. We'll have to see. I really don't know. But the bottom line is that this goes to the House of Representatives. Trump wins. He wins hands down, 31 votes to 19, most likely. Okay. Unfortunately, we are going to have to be patient as all of this plays out. And I promise you, I'm going to give you 2 videos a day, every day, to keep you up to date on things, keep you encouraged. That's what we do in this channel, right? We call it the Stockdale Principle. It's called the Stockdale Principle. You've got to be very realistic about the challenges that are facing you, but at the same time, you can never lose hope that you're going to prevail. Those are the two. That's what makes great companies distinct from, say, good or mediocre companies. They use it in business strategy and the like. It's called the Stockdale Principle. So we're all going to have to be patient as this plays out. We're all going to have to turn off the mainstream media. Well, you can. I have to listen to them and read them and so forth, and the research that we're doing. Make sure you turn off Fox News, most especially Fox News. Have you seen how their ratings are utterly imploding? I mean, it's like, so Newsmax surpassed Fox News Business, which is sad because I actually really like some of those guys. Maria on there and Lou Dobbs, and you could throw Cavuto away as far as I'm concerned. Horrible, but Newsmax is beating Fox News Business.
right now in the ratings. It's stunning. It's a stunning turn of events. We've talked about the rise of the network society as over against mass society, where the big networks all come from. Network society is much more localized. It's much thinner. It's flattened out, so people with $100 webcams can get just as many views as these multi-million-dollar, news conglomerates and that sort of thing. What we're seeing, although Newsmax seems pretty well funded, but we're seeing something very similar like that happening. Certainly here in our little channel, our little neck of the woods on the internet network there. So turn off your mainstream media, turn off Fox News. Instead, if you haven't already done so, I would very much appreciate you smack that down subscribe button. Take advantage of alternative media. Take advantage of this channel. I always try to give you the methodology that I'm using to make sure we all understand. When I put forward what I think is happening here, I try to make sure you understand the evidence that I'm drawing from, so you can draw your own conclusion on that. If you think I'm being a bit too optimistic, great, that's fine. Again, I'm using that Stockdale principle. Amazing things are happening right now. It's unbelievable. If we had a Romney, or if we had a George W., or a Jeb, or a Condoleezza Rice, or a Chris Christie, they would have rolled over by now. They would have conceded, and we would have just been coronating Joe Biden through the whole nation would have been doing it.